Hello, I am Samantha Wojcik, and I'm going to be analyzing The Mending Wall by Robert Frost. A little bit about this poem is from Robert Frost's second collection of poetry called The North of Boston. It was published in 1914, and the narrator tells the story from a rural New England perspective. And before I read the poem and analyze it, I'm going to analyze the title. The title, The Mending Wall, literally means mending a wall. Like throughout this whole passage, this whole poem, it talks about mending a wall, but the figurative meaning is like mending a relationship, and that there needs to be separation for a friendship. And so, without further ado, I will start analyzing the poem to explain my reasoning for the literal meaning of the title. So something there is that doesn't love a wall, that sends the frozen groundswell under it, and spills the upper boulders in the sun, and makes gaps even to compassive rest. The work of hunters is another thing. I have came after them and made repairs, where they have left not one stone on a stone, but they would have the rabbits out hiding, to please the yelping dogs. The gasp, I mean. No one else has seen them made or heard them made, but at spring mending time we find them there. I let my neighbor know beyond the hill, and on a day we meet to walk the line, and set the wall between us again. We keep the wall between us as we go, to each the boulder that has fallen to each, and some are loaves and some are nearly balls. We have to use a spell to make them balance. Stay where you are until our backs are turned. We wear our fingers rough with handling them. Oh, just another kind of outdoor game. One on a side. It comes a little more. There, where it is, we do not need the wall. Here, he is all pine and I am apple orchard. My apple trees will never get across, and eat the cones under his pine. I tell him. He only says good fences make good neighbors. Spring is the mischief in me, and I wonder if I could put a notion in his head. Why do they make good neighbors? Isn't it where there are cows? But here there are no cows. Before I built a wall, I asked to know what I was walling in or walling out, and to whom I was like to give offense. Something there is that doesn't love a wall. That wants it down. I could say elves to him, but it's not elves exactly. I rather he said it for himself. I see him there, bringing a stone grasped firmly by the top, in each hand like an old stone savage armed. He moves in the darkness, as it seems to me, not of woods, only in the shade of trees. He will not go behind his father's saying, and he likes having thought of it so well. He says again, good fences make good neighbors. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the theme. So the theme is human fellowship or human friendship, and Frost deals with this in other parts of his poems, but unlike his other poems, he deals with distance and tension between the men. In this poem, the neighbor and the narrator aren't together all the time, and like there's tension between them because the neighbor and the narrator don't agree about the mending of the wall. The narrator thinks there shouldn't be a wall, but the neighbor thinks there should be, because the neighbor says the saying, good fences make good neighbors, and it which presents ignorance into the neighbor. Frost also conveys that when he says that the neighbor, he moves in the darkness, as it seems to me, not of woods, only in the shade of trees, which when people are in the darkness or dark, it means that they don't know the whole story, or like they choose not to know, and that's what the neighbor's doing. They're choosing not to know the narrator, and like I don't know, it's not like creating a real relationship, it's just creating the superficial one of like building the wall together, which to me it would make a stronger friendship. So Frost uses recurring cycles in life. He uses frozen ground, swells, referring to winter, and upper boulders in the sun, referring to the summer. And a little later, he talks about the spring mending time, which is when they come together and build the wall. And so he's stating that that they come together once a year to build the wall, and that's their friendship. They build the wall together, and that creates the neighbor friendship. Like, to be a good neighbor, you don't always have to see each other. Like, to be a good friend, you don't always have to see each other. It's only times of need, and like that you need to be there, and that's what the narrator is there for. He needs to help the neighbor build the wall, or they wouldn't be friends, because the neighbor believes that good fences make good neighbors, and if the narrator wouldn't build the wall, he wouldn't be a good friend. As proven in the section, that he doesn't believe that good fences make good friends, but he still does it to please his neighbor, because he still wants to be a good neighbor. And so on that note, I want to thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed my annotation.